Hey, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Laughing and Crying. I love you guys out there in podcast land because you're listening to my podcast and it's amazing. I just want to let you know if you are listening and you love it, go review it. Only 5 stars, please. And let me know how you feel about it. I read these things and it's awesome. So to do that, whether it be Spotify, Apple, what are the other ones? I'm not sure. All the other ones too. And go do that because I like it. Also, I have someone in the building with me today because you know you guys love when I have someone in the building. It's my very good friend, Kirstin. Kirstin, say hello to the people.
Hello to the people.
Kirstin's here. Yay!
Woo!
I don't know if you guys know Kirstin.
Probably not.
Probably not.
It's
except
fine.
that she's kind of a rapper.
Wow.
It has
starting
really
out.
good music that you guys should go check out on Spotify.
Yeah, go check it out there.
On Spotify.
Yes.
She goes by the name K, which is spelled KA3 on Spotify and probably Apple Music. Apple Music?
Oh yeah, all the platforms.
All the platforms.
Tidal,
She's
like
legit.
whatever you love. Pandora,
How can I
like
get my
we on all
podcast
of
on
it.
Tidal? Can I get my podcast on?
I can help you with that.
Okay. And here's a little clip of her song, Malibu Vibes.
I think this is a moment. Treat it like a crib in the hills. You should own it. Yeah. When you met a chick like me,
Never have.
how wait while I sip my drink.
All right.
What you think? You and me, first class flight to some sand on the beach.
I don't wanna wait, I've been hella patient. So grab me by the waist and let's get away.
I think this is a moment. I think this is a moment.
Go listen to the music because her music's amazing and she's dope. Okay.
I'm excited.
Kirsten, how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty all right. You know what I mean? I'm doing pretty
all right. Mean high, low, buffalo. What was your high of your day, low of your day, and something that surprised you?
I worked out with my trainer for the first time in almost 2 weeks. So that was a high. Like that felt amazing. No
Okay.
low.
No low. No
Nah.
low. I
Nah.
love those kind of days. Something
Yeah.
that surprised you.
I got a business opportunity. So I'm making a quick buck within like 48 hours. So that was surprising. I didn't expect that. So
Tell me more there.
yeah, I'm connected to a production company that does like sync music for film, TV, etc. So they reached out and said that they had some work for hire opportunities. So they want me to turn around 2 records in 48 hours. And then I get a check for it. So
Be out here in these streets.
look, I'm excited. It's a challenge. It's a wonderful challenge. So
I love it.
yeah. How about you? High, low.
Ooh, not turning it around on the host. Let's see.
Yeah.
High of my day. I actually got off earlier than normal from my job
Beautiful.
and I got to be out in the world and it rained. So double. If you guys don't know, I love the rain. So that was awesome.
Said no one ever, just Nisha.
The low of my day was I'm in the midst of trying to buy a car and it's just not the market to buy a car.
Really? What's made it challenging?
That cars are after COVID, car prices have gone up because of what is it, like the parts and stuff are hard to, they're not making as many or the materials or whatever. So like
Manufacturing. Yeah.
there you go. And so it's making it harder to get a new car, which means people are relying on older cars when they need one, which is making them the demand on cars that you can like buy and have the same day, like higher. So people are being able to charge more money for older cars. So used cars. So like now used cars are like the price of new cars. And it's blowing my mind and my pocket.
Right. All of that.
So it's either like wait a month for your new car to be made and shipped or like buy an old car from a ridiculous price. So definitely a low. Buffalo it was actually a really fun day at work today.
Okay.
Yeah, it was super fun. And I got to be outside. I was outside. So that's my buffalo.
I'll accept it.
Thank you for asking that. So up on the show today, guys, we're gonna do this or that as our game. I know. No, let me tell you a story. No, one gotta go, but we're gonna try this or that. And I hope you like it. And later on, we're gonna have a conversation talking about rejection. That's heavy, but we're gonna talk about it, how it affects us in relationships. And Kirstin's gonna be here to have that conversation with me. So I'm excited about that. Are you ready for this or that, Kirstin?
I'm ready.
All right, let's go.
Let's get it.
Okay, so this or that, how you play this game. It's also in the name, like one gotta go is. So with this or that, I'm gonna give you two options and you tell me which option you choose and why.
Okay.
Talking pets or talking babies?
Definitely talking babies. Do you remember the movie?
Rugrats?
No.
Oh.
Like where babies were talking. This is like a 90s movie.
Honey, I Shrunk the Kids?
No. They're
No.
like legitimate babies talking. Is this not familiar?
Rugrats.
No. Look Who's Talking? Was that or Baby Geniuses?
Oh,
Maybe where like babies were actually talking, or like
Okay.
you could get into their psyche kind of thing. Like that was the,
got you.
vibe.
Got
Yes.
you. Why do you want to get into babies?
I don't know.
Psyche?
I just, like, it's just like- no, I feel like they have a lot of insight, right? Like they done seen some things on the other side.
They're like flies on a wall. Yeah, truly. I think I would choose the same thing.
Yeah,
I'd much rather hear what a baby had to say than a pet.
100%.
Okay, next one. Sauce on the side or sauce on top?
Always on top.
What?
I'm a sauce person. Like extra sauce, please.
Extra sauce.
Yes, like so on
See,
top
I
and
need-
on the side. Give it, please.
Right. I need sauce on the side with extra of it. Because I feel like that gives me more. Because when they put them in the little portion cups, sometimes it'd be more than what if you get it on top.
I understand what you're saying.
All right, give me a food. Let's see. Like wings. I want the sauce on top and on the side.
Right, of course. I don't think there's anything that like we're just like put that on the side for me.
Okay, so sauce on top. You're right.
There we go. There we go.
All right, this is a different kind of one, but test the waters or dive in the deep end.
I'll go to the first thought I had, to be fair, which is dive in the deep end and
I
figure
would
it
say
out.
the same thing.
Right?
I think I'm a risk taker. I'm usually a calculated risk taker,
Same.
but I would much rather take a risk than not. And I feel like
Yeah.
test the water sounds way too more conservative for me.
Yeah. No, the answer is always no if you don't try. So I agree.
There you go. Let's
I
get
agree.
it. All right.
Okay.
Loud neighbors or nosy neighbors?
Nosy. I mean, I record music and things like that. I need silence. You know what I
Oh,
mean?
okay.
And I'm not that interesting. So you can be nosy, but you're not gonna find out anything. Like
Nah, I need them to be loud and
Hey,
leave
do
me
you?
alone.
you like stay out my business.
I currently have a nosy neighbor, so
Oh, okay.
it's just
You have some experience.
it's to leave me alone for me.
Mm,
It is.
all up in your business.
I mean, and for no reason, just bored. Don't you have TV?
You are the entertainment.
Okay, so last one:
Yes.
winning the lottery or finding your soulmate.
You know, what's funny is just yesterday I was telling a friend, I was like, I don't believe in soulmates. So I would have to say winning the lottery. Like if I don't know. Do you believe in soulmates?
I think when I hear somebody say soulmate, I think somebody that you get with that you just click with. That's what I think of. Like I
Yeah.
think like you just get with them and you click with them and you're all like, man, we must have meant to be together because that's how like you just mesh together.
Yeah.
And I do believe in that. If soulmate means it's the only person that was ever for you, I don't believe in that.
See, and that's the latter is
Yeah.
my definition. That's why I choose the money. I
Got
don't
you.
think there's one.
I choose the soulmate.
That's you better.
I need the relationship. Okay.
You better.
Okay. All right, one more, because it's fun. All right.
Okay.
Call first thing in the morning or call in the middle of the night?
Oh, this one depends. Like, am I calling or am I receiving a call?
Receiving, I'll say.
There's something special about both.
I know.
Um,
I say in the middle of the night. I love when people call me, especially like when
yeah.
you talk about something or thought of me in the middle of the night. I love calls in the middle of the night.
See, and I'm gonna say morning, like starting my morning off with like people I love, like that sets my day off. Right foot. So I'll say morning. And I also like my sleep. So please don't call me in the middle of the night unless it's an emergency and I got you.
All right, last one for real. Last one.
Let's do it.
Girlfriends or guy friends?
Why did I hesitate? I feel like this should be an easy one. But I love all of my girlfriends and my guy friends. Girlfriends.
Really? I'm having a hard time. Why do I feel like guy friends are superior?
I think it's apples and oranges. I really do.
True. All right, tell me what you mean.
When I think about my one thing I love about my relationships with my girlfriends is our ability to relate pretty much on all levels, I would say. Because they understand all the things.
Right.
And then from the male side, literally my guy friends give me the male perspective, which I can never understand. So it's completely different worlds. Like I don't know. Give me your perspective. Because you were leaning toward guys.
Yeah, I think I say guys because I feel like guys have this ability to less emotionally invested. And I think that's kind of how I lean. Where like women will probably challenge you to be more in touch with your emotions, and guys generally, I guess I'll say, don't. And they kind of like, I can walk through a situation being made to laugh, like find the humor in the situation and finding the logic in the situation. And also I feel like guys have this like protective nature to them that women don't have, even if they're your friend.
That's interesting.
Yeah, and I have more thoughts. I just don't want to take up too much time over here. So we can talk about it on the Patreon. We can talk about the Patreon. So anyway, that was good. So we're gonna jump into conversation talking about rejection. And rejection, you could take it so many different ways, right? Yep. So we're gonna be talking about it though in terms of like not society, not jobs, not new dating relationships or anything like that, but current relationships that you're in that mean a lot to you. So we're talking about like marriages, friendships, parents, other family members. Like we're talking about those relationships that you currently have a connection to, where you feel rejection within. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay. And so I'm gonna ask you, Kirstin, what does rejection mean to you in your own words?
And not the Webster dictionary version. For me, rejection is having someone push you away when you want to pull them in closer.
I need a moment of silence.
Let me not giggle in the back.
That's real. I wouldn't. No notes. I wouldn't add or take anything away.
I was gonna say,
I wouldn't add or take anything away. Like how you said, like having somebody push you away when you want to be close.
Yeah.
Like I think so many relationships came to my mind, but I don't want to talk about it. No, I'm joking. But okay, so what's your relationship with rejection? Like with that definition being what it is, like what's your relationship with it?
Yeah, no, rejection and I are intimately involved and have been intimately involved since I was a child.
Okay.
Yeah, it's longstanding. And
are you friends? Are you enemies?
We're beginning to better understand one another now that I'm in my 30s. Absolutely.
Come on, say it.
Absolutely. If we were, talking about this, shoot, even 3 years ago, I would have had a completely different response.
What would be your response 3 years ago?
Nah, we were definitely button heads.
Yeah.
We were definitely button heads. Like there was, I didn't understand.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing how perspective can shift everything.
Can
Right.
change, right?
It's like the situation doesn't necessarily have to change, but your perspective can, and it can alter your world.
Tell me your first or most prominent memory of like rejection in a relationship for you. Yeah, go there. No.
Diving in, everything like
Deep.
no prep. I think the relationship that impacted all other relationships when it comes to rejection was the relationship with my father, and him not being as present as maybe a kid would want their parent to be present in their childhood.
Yeah.
So that was definitely the most impactful. That was the one relationship that took me decades to come to terms with. So I definitely say that one.
What'd you eventually come to?
If you want a relationship with someone, even if it doesn't look the way that you want it to look, but you desire it, then stick it out.
Yeah.
So I learned that my father cannot offer me the relationship that I desire, but he can still offer me occasional interactions.
Yeah.
I had to accept that I do desire some form of relationship with him. So
right.
Because of that, I'm meeting him where he is. So. Can you answer the question as well?
You stop turning this on me. No. My most prominent memory of rejection, I honestly feel like it was my mother. Which is interesting that both of our answers was our parents.
Mm-hmm.
And mine was a little bit different because my mom was very present.
Okay.
I think she was not emotionally present. And so she was definitely very physically present, and as far as being responsible and being provisionally present. But I think that if I could have been a bug in her ear telling her do this or do that, I would have told her, learn your children in their individuality. And to tell her you can't treat them all the same. And I don't think you just happened upon that information. And so I don't blame her, but I think it definitely affected our relationship, and it made me feel that she didn't care to know who I was.
So she had more of a one size fits all kind of approach to parenting. Yeah.
Right. And she was a single mom. So there were some things that she had to do out of survival.
Right.
She didn't always have the time. Probably the mental capability, probably, you know what I mean? And I'm not here to, tear down my mother or anybody else's. And I'm also not here to invalidate myself and my experience. And so I'm just here to say from what I experienced from my mother, it felt to me as rejection. Yeah. And that was definitely the most prominent. And I think that it kind of overflowed into other areas of my life where I kind of expected people to not understand who I was and what I needed. And so it just became the standard in my life of when I'm in a relationship, I have to take care of me and what I need. But it's also because it's what I wanted from my mom, I have to fully learn what other people want and what they need, so they don't ever feel that same rejection.
Yeah. It's making me think.
I'm glad.
Yeah.
Because there's a sense of trauma to rejection, right? Oh, yeah. And I think that the majority of people, they think about it, they don't think about it in terms of like how it impacts the relationships that you currently have and how it can impact the future relationships that you could have. Yeah. I think people, when they hear rejection, they think about jobs. They think about going on a date and somebody not texting them back or calling them back. But the reality is there's like rejection kind of intertwined, like all relationships. And I know for
Absolutely.
me, I feel like I've been rejected by my mom, my husband,
Mm.
and there's been some friendships. There's been some friendships where I felt that way. And I love it, what you said in your definition earlier of like, I want you closer,
Yeah.
but almost like can't have you closer.
Yeah.
And the reason I love it is because it so much speaks to those like deeper relationships. Because although we want like these dating relationships with people we don't know or whatever the case may be, it's like you really don't know them. So you really can't
Right.
say you
Right.
really want them closer because they could be serial killers, whatever. But
That's
like,
extreme.
yeah. Listen, I live in extremes. I take risks. Okay. But like these, the people that are closest to you, like I say, like to my married podcast land people out there, like, marriage has loads of rejection. There's nothing like being rejected from your spouse. And I'm sure you could say, we could say the same thing about family, right? Like you talk about your dad, talk about mom. I'm curious, like, who are like your top 3 people that you're like, I've been rejected by these people and it's kind of stuck with me. You don't have to say their names, protect them.
Right.
Check the innocence.
In a newer way, my mom.
Okay.
And it's new because my mom has always been, I always considered her the one constant in my life. I'm like, everybody else could fade away.
Yeah.
Everybody else could leave, but my mom won't.
Yeah.
We've always had that relationship. Growing up, people said I was her shadow. Like I was always there.
So sweet.
And recently we encountered some challenges and we reached a point where she literally was just like, ultimately, she said that she was pretty much done with our relationship. Like she was indifferent, was the word, indifferent about us, and said a bunch of other things. And I understand that all of these things were said out of hurt. But at that moment, I realized, or at that moment, it felt like she was no longer my constant. Like this thing that I held on to for like 3 decades plus was no longer there. And so that was certainly a form of rejection that I'm still processing now.
Yeah.
This is, all within the past, couple of months. So.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. Yeah.
How rejection can like impact so heavy on us that it almost feels like a process that you have to walk through when you experience it. And I love what you said, like you thought of her as like your constant. And I think about like what our mind does when we feel rejection. Part of me feels like we go into this space of like all or nothing thinking.
Yeah.
This idea that when we experience rejection, that it somehow labels the relationship as something different. So like I said, like I experienced rejection in my marriage, and Dre and I have really honest conversation. And I remember a conversation that we had where he basically like told me there were things that he liked about women or women's bodies, and those things were not things I had. And although he wasn't doing it to be malicious, it felt like a form of rejection to me because I'm like, no, you're supposed to like what I have.
Right.
And
right.
It was just this piece of me that kind of like felt like it broke, realizing that there was something possibly that he could be, because to me, I'm sorry, I'm for jumping thoughts, but to me, the opposite of rejection is acceptance. And so there was something that he was accepting about other women that he couldn't be accepting about with me. And so just like this idea that it like changed the dynamic. And I would look at him and sometimes I would even say stuff like, oh, I know you don't think I'm pretty. And it changed from this like relationship where I'm like, man, you think the world of me to you think the world of me except for how I look.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or you no longer think the world of me because you don't accept everything about how I look, because there's other things that you may have wanted or needed or whatever. And that's why I think about like the all or nothing coming into mind, where it's like, you know, if your parent or
people that were emotionally unavailable in an effort to, and you can read all about this. Like the more I learn, the more it makes sense. Like the relationship with my father wasn't successful in my eyes, right? I wasn't able to get it to the place that I wanted it to be. So I am trying to recreate it with all of these different people.
Oh, it's a real thing.
not realizing like it's not gonna work. Like you're attracting the same quality, you know what I mean? So that's been a fun discovery. I'd say fun is probably not the greatest word, but it's been insightful.
Yeah, to understand that at times we can, in order to give ourselves comfort, we can try to recreate a situation in order to this time solve it.
Oh yeah, it's gonna go right this time. Like I know, like in the past, like it didn't, but like this is the time. Like, this gonna be different. Like, oh yeah,
I love it. So I wonder, as you go into other relationships, what do you feel like you carry with you in terms of the baggage that's left over from the rejection you felt?
How I think I show up based on feedback that I have received is I show up as guarded, closed off, lacking the ability to be vulnerable, uninterested, uncommitted.
I too am she.
Yeah, like that. I think that's been one of the toughest pills that I've had to swallow, because I can, we talk about the dichotomy, like two things can exist. I understand that I can come off as all of those things. Like I acknowledge that in self, but I also can acknowledge that within self, I do desire connection within that space. And I do desire for them to know that, but how I, show up is not always representative of what I feel inside.
Are you afraid of it?
This is like, oftentimes I reject before I can be rejected. So it's not
the rejector.
Yeah. So there's not really that fear per se, because I, again, liking control, feel like I have control in a lot of spaces. But I also carry a little bit of hope too, and that I'm not like this, hopeless person that doesn't think that there's the potential of having successful relationships. Like I think I absolutely can.
Who do you feel like you've rejected? Like, if I was talking to someone else in life that may have come in contact with you and asked them, who is the person that rejected you? Who would say Kirstin?
That's an excellent question. I push friends away throughout life, like different stages of life. What I noticed too, I would push away, regret it, and try to bring them back. And a lot of times I was never able to get those relationships back.
Yeah, that's really cool that you bring that up, because, we're talking about rejection within a relationship. And I just feel like maybe somebody's asking like, okay, I understand how rejection affects me, but I don't understand how rejection affects my relationships. But I think that's a really good point of this idea that sometimes we don't even know we're doing it because we haven't dealt with the rejection that we felt. And so to your point, like we then turn around and begin to reject others before we can be the one that's rejected. But there's sometimes, whether it be permanent or semi-permanent impact that we could leave on people as they have to go through their process of getting through the rejection they feel from us. And sometimes you can't get the relationship back in the same capacity that you had it. You know, I'm out here for the people. You know what I mean? I'm here for you. And I think that the point of this, this episode, this podcast, is not just to like talk about, like sit and kind of ruminate on rejection, but it's to just bring attention to something that, like Kirstin said, we have control here in this space, but sometimes we ignore the fact that we have control here in this space, and there's healing that needs to happen. And so if you're in a relationship and you know that, as you're listening and maybe you're asking this question to yourself, who's rejected you? What's the most prominent memory you have of rejection? What does rejection mean to you? And somebody's popping up in your head, like it's like going off, like there is something there. Maybe healing hasn't happened there. Maybe you could be, projecting that off in your relationship that you're currently in. I don't know.
High likelihood.
Yeah, high likelihood. So what I want to do, if I can change directions just a little bit, God says shit. I don't ever want to leave you guys in a space where you don't feel hope after. And so I know Kirstin has hope because you processed through, what you've processed through. But I want you guys, the people out there who's just like, man, I really rejected somebody, or man, I still feel like the weight of that rejection. I want to walk through these steps. And Kirstin, if you want to just jump in on me and like let's converse about it. There's different like steps and things just to like remember, keeping your mind as you're walking through a season of rejection. Okay, so the first thing is acknowledging your feelings, accepting the fact that you might be in pain from whatever's happening, and allow yourself to just like experience whatever you're feeling. Is this something that you did?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Something I do actively. Like I'll have moments and I'll literally give myself the grace and say that these feelings are okay. Because I used to, like, in the midst of breakdowns or terrible situations, I would beat myself up over feeling like,
Yeah.
And it's like, no, like, it's okay to acknowledge, like, this hurts.
And guys, I can even imagine like that you can feel rejection even from your children.
Mm-hmm.
If we can feel it from our parents. And so, yeah, just keep thinking on it as we're going through these things of like where this fits in your life. The second one is grieve. And this especially is important for those of you who've actually lost relationships or your relationship has completely like done a 180 or changed. Understanding that grief is complicated and it's not linear. And so understanding that there's like a process that you go through to actually get over the loss of something and giving yourself time and space to mourn. But sometimes it's also like grieving the idea of something. I'll use a relationship I had in college where I had a really close friendship and I kind of felt rejected by them because they were kind of not opening up to me fully. And they were just like really major details that they were leaving out when I thought we were super close. And so in that, I was like feeling this rejection, not knowing why. And it completely changed our relationship. And so I ended up having to grieve that relationship when at that time that person was like pretty much the closest person to me. And so sometimes it's grieving your idea of something as well. It's not necessarily grieving the person, but grieving your idea of what the relationship should be. And something that you said a lot, Kirstin, was like understanding that there's evidence there and there's something that you can learn as you're processing through your rejection. It can teach you about the person that you're with. Sometimes it teaches you about, their fears, their insecurities. I think even in the situation of my mother, like she was overwhelmed and probably afraid even that she was afraid that she was going to mess it up in a way that she just did nothing. And sometimes she was so afraid to confront her own feelings that she didn't know how to ask anybody else about theirs.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes when you're feeling rejection, if you can get to the root of it, you can learn more about, the person you're with, or even learn more about yourself, and even something that you can change. I really caution saying it that way because I don't want it to sound blamey. But, you know, I even learned in the relationship with my friend in college that there could have been so much time we could have gotten back if I just asked some questions.
Mm.
And I learned that I, at times, was scared to communicate.
I feel that.
Which moves me to my next one, which is communicate your thoughts.
Hey.
You
So
hear me?
important. So important.
Like, get clarity.
Yeah.
Because I believe that rejection is also subjective.
Mm.
Talk to me.
I was about to say, are you gonna elaborate on the?
It's subjective because you see somebody's actions and you interpret them.
Look, we're on the same page. So, like, ultimately, like, we all experience the world differently, and we have different realities, right? But we can be in the same situation and just interpret it differently. I can show up for you in one way and think that it is the way that you need me to show up, and it can be completely far removed. Like I remember, I think there was a sermon I listened to years ago, and it was this idea of, he was talking about this couple that was building like offenses. And I think one of the scenarios was like the couple, the wife expected like pancakes the morning of her birthday or something like that. Her husband to make these pancakes or whatever. And let's say he made bacon instead.
Right.
That could be seen as like, you know, but
so
he's like, I prepared,
pancakes?
right? But he's like, I prepared you some bacon. Like I prepared, like I'm showing you, you know what I mean? So it's the understanding that we have different realities. That's huge.
Yes,
good point.
And communicating, like setting the boundaries as well, because sometimes the rejection can come on a little bit harsher than even what we're talking about. And sometimes when you feel that, you need to set your own boundaries of like, hey, you can maybe not accept this about me, but you can't say this or you can't say that, or I can't allow you to be in this aspect of this capacity in my life. And you have to communicate that. Okay, this is one that I feel like I do a lot when I feel rejection, which is projecting blame either on myself or on other people. Like I'm the reason that somebody rejected to me, or somebody is stupid or uninformed or whatever because they rejected me.
There has to be something wrong with them.
Right.
Kind of thing.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's just not the case. And so I just feel like it's one of those things where I just want to tell people, like, you don't have to go through that step. Like we said earlier, to like avoid that all or nothing thinking. You know, for the people who had relationships kind of robbed from them or taken from them, you know, even though it takes two people to make a relationship work, it doesn't always take two people for it to end. And so just knowing that, you know, you don't have to blame yourself for somebody else's choice.
I feel that.
Yeah.
In the depths.
Bring your soul. I love it. Okay. Practice self-care.
Ooh, yes.
Yes. Self-care does not always mean manicures and pedicures and vacations. Sometimes self-care is being kind to yourself.
Yes. Sometimes it's rest. It's sitting on a sofa and staring at the wall.
Yes. Sometimes it's reflecting.
Yes.
Going back to our first point, sometimes it's just acknowledging your feelings. And realize it's not your fault. It takes two people to make a relationship work.
100%.
Remember your strengths in the midst of rejection. Sometimes I think that we can focus on I'm not lovable, or I was too much, or whatever. But like the reality is, like, there are things that you know about yourself that you know for sure. And even in those moments of doubt, like there are things that you know for sure, and focus on those things. Like there are people currently in my life who love me and who are showing me that through their actions. I make people laugh. Whatever it is that rejection is not affecting in that moment, like make sure that you remember those things and think of those things. And if you can't, ask somebody in your life who does love you, ask them, what are my strengths? Because it helps to lean on the things that are positive. And also, like, who do you want to be? And where does that fit in that particular scenario? Because somebody might be telling you, I know in your case, Kirstin, with your dad, like, I want you to know that I love you, but I just don't want to have an engaged relationship with you right now. And, if you're someone who has someone maybe that's jumping in and out of your life and that's not comfortable for you, like, who do you want to be? Like, what boundaries do you want to set? Because that's important too, not just the decision of that other person to jump in and out of your life. Because you can say, hey, if you want to have a relationship with me, here's what that will take for me, but this is what I won't do. Think about what you want and what you don't want. And then this is the last one, to keep putting yourself out there. And I know, like, it's an interesting one to put in this space of what to do when you feel rejection, but I think closing yourself off to people who love you or relationships is probably not the best thing to do in that scenario. The idea of someone accepting you, I don't believe is as straightforward as linear as people may think. And people change and their opinions change and people grow and all of that. So what do you say to that? Keep putting yourself out there.
Keep putting yourself out there. I think the thing that came to mind, and I think is a perfect example of continuing to be open, is for consistency. We talked about the rejection I felt from my father, right? Around age 16, God sent my godfather my way. Like, literally, there was a guy in my church who approached my mom, and he was just like, mind you, his girlfriend at the time, my mom was friends with, so it wasn't just random man, like he was a minister, all the things, but he approached my mom and he was just like, yeah, I feel like God is telling me that I should be in your daughter's life. And I realized this is like a strange thing. Like, I'm a grown man, that kind of thing. But my mom was trusting of him and God, and it's like, okay. And she allowed this relationship to develop. And because I was open to it, he has been one of the biggest blessings in my life. Like, that's my dad for real. You know what I mean? Like, so it is important to just remain open to whatever life, God, or whoever you believe in sends your way. You never know.
You never know. And you never know how the current relationship that you're in can change.
Absolutely.
Because people can become more educated. It's a thing.
Yep. Speak on that.
It's a thing. People's opinions can change. People can grow within themselves. And sometimes the reason why somebody is rejecting you is not even about you. And so I think once we master the not blaming ourselves, we can help to do this point, which is like, just making sure that you're not closing yourself off to possibility.
Absolutely.
And I want to end by asking you this question. Like, who have you been accepted by? Like, who comes to your mind?
My godfather.
Yeah.
I've been accepted by my wonderful friend group that I have, particularly the folks in Charlotte, North Carolina. I've been accepted by my siblings. Like, when you talk about relationships that really come with like no judgment, like those are my brother and sister, hands down. There's so many relationships. Like, if I was to step back and think about it, that I feel so accepted. And I think you bring up a good point. I don't think I think about that enough. I think it's much easier to think about the rejection. The people who are just like, nah, I can't give you that. But there are so many people who have their arms wide open, ready to embrace me. So how about you? Who would you say?
My sister. Yeah. I also have a wonderful friend group. And I think in a way, for me, I've learned that acceptance and rejection can coexist. And so someone like my husband, who I felt immense rejection by, I gave one example, I've also felt very accepted by as well.
Yeah.
Trying your best to focus on the acceptance is such a game changer.
Yeah. It really is. There are people you haven't been thinking about that have been like, you know, on the sidelines just waiting for you to come over to them.
So how you feel? Yeah, I'm talking to you, the people out in podcast land who's listening to this conversation. How do you feel? What do you think about rejection? Have you thought about it before you listen to this? Was it a mom? Was it a dad? Who rejected you? What was your process like? Let me know. You know what I mean? Let me know. And you can do that, of course, as you know, go into that podcast episode page, unleashthaneesh.com. That's unleash the THA niche.com. Join the Patreon, be a part of the niche gang, period. That's all I have to say. And Kirstin, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Sincerely, I appreciate this opportunity.
I love it. I love it. And I want to have you on again, of course.
Let's do it.
You'll join us back with the people?
Oh, yeah, 100%.
All right. And I don't know. Maybe we can impact the world or something. I'll leave it at that. Bye.